Hello everyone, this is Muhammad Wasim and you are watching my YouTube channel. In today's video, we are going to discuss how we can add validation in our .NET API. There are a couple of ways to do that. We can use data annotations and other ways using Fluent Validation Nuget Package. So this is a famous library, Fluent Validation, that is used for adding validation in our .NET and .NET Core projects. I have already created a demo project that we will use to add validation. So right now this project has two methods, two APIs, this controller, get students and add student. And then we are calling a service, student service, which basically contains a static list of students and it is implementing two methods, get students and add students. In this video, my sole purpose is to demonstrate the fluent validation. So you can retrieve this data from database or any other source. So I am just using a static list. Okay, let's run this project and see its APIs. Okay, so we have two APIs right now, get and post. I have already configured them into Insomnia. It is same like Postman. So when I go on get student and send a request, we can see right now it has 4 students. And if I add a student and send request, then it is sending us back the updated list. So after that it has added another student 5 which I have passed in body. So the next step to add fluent validation is installing Nuget package. I have already installed it. You can check it from Nuget Package Manager and install it in your project. After installing the Nuget package, we have to add a validator. So let me add a class for validators and let me name my validator for student as student validator. I personally make my validators internal and sealed because these are not going to be accessible outside of this project. The next step is to inherit this validator from this class abstract validator and pass it the name of our request. In this example, we are just using a student DTO which is acting as a request or command for our demo. It has 4 properties: ID, name, age, and email. Then by using this Visual Studio shortcut CTOR, we can generate constructor and here we will add our validation rules. This is the syntax that we will use to add our validation. Here we will specify on which property we want to add a validation. Then we can add a couple of rules from here. Suppose we want that our ID should be greater than 0, and if it is not, then we can print this message. I personally like to hard code my messages on my own so I have more control, but if we do not pass this with message, it will still return by default messages. So here I have more control over messages that I want to return. So I want to give a message that ID 0. On same pattern, I can add another rule for age. Suppose we want that our students' age should be greater than 18. So right now we have added these two rules, and on same pattern, if we want to add multiple rules, property, we can do that as well by following this approach. By using dot, we can add multiple rules as well. Suppose we can say that it should not be null, not null, and we can add its own message as well. Add age should not be null. So let me arrange that this one should come first and this one come after that. Okay, so right now we have added two rules in our validator. The next step would be to call this validator. I am going into my controller, and here I would like to call my validator. So to call our validator, we have to simply inject iValidator by passing it our DTO at which we want to apply validation, and then we can add it to our constructor. Let me arrange that, make it look better. Okay. This is all we need to do. Here we can call the method validate and validate async as well as per our need. In our current scenario, there is no such async rules in our validator, but if there were some sort of async calls that we can do here as well. Suppose here I can do custom async, and this will allow us to write a custom logic, and it would be async. So if that was the case where we have async call in our validator, then we should call validate async. But right now there is no async validation, so I will simply go with validate. Let me check that what is the type of result. So type of result is validation result. I will take that result into a variable. So we have to import it from fluent validation dot results, not from data annotation. So be sure when you import it. Okay. Next step would be, if result is valid, then we can do whatever we are going to do, but let's stop it here by adding a not operator, that if result is not valid, then we will return the error. So we can do it by using these built-in methods from results, validation problem, pass it result dot to dictionary. This will automatically take care of the validation, and it will convert into a dictionary. The property name would be id, and then the errors would be its values. The last step is to register Fluent Validator in our dependency injection container. So I have already added this different file. Its name is dependency injection, and it is being called in our program.cs here. Add dependencies. I personally try to keep my dependencies in a separate file, so program.cs file is not overloaded. Here we have already injected our student service. Let's add a validator now. keep it scoped because our service is already scoped. Let me check the syntax. By the way, this is an article that I have already wrote about Fluent Validation in my newsletter. If you are more interested in reading blogs than video, then you can check out this blog. I will share the URL of this blog in description of this video. So that's how we are going to do that. GTO and the name of our validator. So this is how we can add its dependency. That's all we need to do. Let's run this and see if our validation works or not. Okay, so our project is running. Let me go back to Insomnia, and because we have added a rule that our age should be greater than 18, I will send 10. And here we have got a validation error that age should be greater than 18. Okay, if I send a value 0 here, but we have added a rule that our age should be greater than 0, so it should basically fail here. Let me send that again. So we have got two errors. So our validation is fine and working. There is one more thing that I want to share is how we can add the register the dependencies of validator. Suppose we have a lot of validators in our API that could be 10, 20, 30, 40. So instead of adding those one by one here and replicating this code, this will result into a lot of code. But there is an alternative way that we can do and achieve the same result. So instead of adding all validators manually, we can call this method services.addValidator from assembly. Add validators from assembly, and here we have to pass it the name of our assembly. I have already created a variable for this here in dependency injection class, so I will just call it dependency injection dot assembly. By the way, I was in same file, and so we don't need to write this because we are in same file. So let's see if it works now or not. Let me run it again. Let me go back to Insomnia. We have same request. So it is complaining right now, unable to resolve fluent validation.iValidator. So the problem here is that our validator is internal. So if I make it public, it will work. But I don't want to make it public. So what is the alternative way? In this method, you can see we have three params: assembly, then we have lifetime, which is by default scoped, and then we have another filter, and last one internal types value, which is by default false. So because our validator is internal and by default it doesn't read them, so we have to specify that you should read internals as well. So what I can do here I can tell clearly that this is assembly and include internal types should be true. So this will resolve the error that we were receiving right now. Let me run the project again. See if our change is working or not. Let me go back to Insomnia, send request again, and here we are good to go. So now our internal access modifier problem is resolved. Let's add a proper value to see if everything works fine or not. Let me make it 19, send request, and here we have our request has been added. Let me add one more, send, and here it has been added. So this is how we can add internal types as well. If you want to specify the scope and you want to change it, because by default its scope is scope lifetime, but if you want to change it to transient or something else, we can do that as well by calling here, adding here lifetime and then adding its value like that, but we are not going to do that right now. So this is how we can simply add the validation in our .NET projects. I hope you have enjoyed watching this video and you have got a better clarity of how to add Fluent Validation in your APIs. If you have enjoyed this video, press a like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you.